welcome to Turn the Page, the official podcast of the Syosset Public Library.
Welcome to Syosset Library's Turn the Page podcast. I will be your host today, Jessica, and I'm really excited to welcome back this author whose book we came to welcome you is probably one of my favorites of the last few years. I try to put it in everybody's hands, like all the time, because it's so good. So when I saw that they were coming out with another book, I jumped on it right away, tried to set up a chat, and here we are. You're back. So Vincent Tirado, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me again.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about this book, which is called You Should Have Been Nicer to My Mom, which if I had to sort of describe it just in like a weird nutshell, it's Knives Out with even more horrible people and some demon stuff going on.
Essentially, yeah. So
Yes.
the inspiration did come from Knives Out. And it's essentially about this young woman who has to go back home for the reading of a will. She is from a fairly wealthy Dominican family. Like they kind of came into wealth slightly before she was born. So she's always known, this extravagant wealth with her family. Her grandfather, who is the one who built the wealth, was the one that passed away. And so now everyone's coalescing in their childhood home to just kind of read the will and find out what they've all inherited. But they're all shocked when they aren't told what they were inherited. Instead, they're told that one of them is a literal demon who is pretending to be one of them, and they have to figure out who it is and get rid of the demon, or they'll all be damned. And over the course of this singular night, scandal after scandal comes out about each of the family members, and they start to turn on each other. And the main character, Xiomara, on top of the fact that she's just trying to figure out who's the demon, finds out that someone in her family was also responsible for her mother's death. And so now she is sort of like on a revenge path to figuring out who it was and like how she's gonna get revenge. So it's definitely a lot. There's a lot baked into it, but yeah, the Knives Out part is a big inspiration for it.
It's a lot of fun, and wow, I mean, there is some drama within the horror, and you really just have a really good way of making it fun and scary at the same time. Um, other than Knives Out, like where did the nexus for this story begin? I know I read some of your end notes, so I have some thoughts in my head as well. But I am curious just for you to kind of chat about it. I guess
Yeah.
to the audience.
I think part of it was also like personal inspiration. I'm basically writing my family, except we're not wealthy at all. My life would be so much more simpler if, all the drama that I deal with in my personal family had to do with an actual wealth that did exist, but it doesn't. And so it just feels really fucking stupid. Like it's just ridiculous the kind of drama my family puts each other in, and just kind of like watching it happen like since I was a kid, mind you. Like this is like nothing new for me. Um just watching how like my aunts and uncles would tear each other down at like the first sign of like, oh, like I need to be on top. And then, a little bit later, they'll just be buddying up next to each other as if they weren't at each other's throats like the week prior. Like it's always felt so strange, so bizarre. Maybe because I just have very strong boundaries. And you can do me wrong exactly one time, and after that one time, we will no longer be friends. Like it's not happening. But they clearly just, they will take any and every opportunity to get to one up each other. And I found that very interesting, considering that like my mom has always raised my brothers and I to like have a sense of love for each other, like love, loyalty. We have to be kind to each other. And then I see like my extended family, and it is the opposite of what my mom has raised us to be. So a lot of it was definitely like somewhat personal, somewhat just like me taking what certain family members and putting them in the book and like deciding, yeah, if anyone thinks this is a ridiculous character, well, congrats, you've met my aunt. Oh, congrats, you've met my uncle. This is my cousin, actually. Like these are just the people that I deal with. So it feels both it's fun and ridiculous to have it in a novel, and also makes me feel like, okay, I have greater control over the situation that I clearly don't in real life.
It's true. And I don't know if it's like a generational thing though, because I feel like, my family had similarities too. I mean, when my parents were alive and my brother and I were younger, they'd take us places and they'd talk smack about the people we were going to see for the entire ride. And then they'd pull people aside wherever we were and talk smack about other people. And then like we'd go home after watching everybody make nice and there'd be more smack. Um,
Yeah,
and
it's so
yeah,
bizarre.
it's so bizarre, but also you know, somebody once said like weddings and funerals bring out the worst in people. I do know like after my parents passed away, I was closest to the bank, so I had to go to the bank and divvy everything up. And whoever the teller was or the bank associate like made a comment like, "Oh, you're going to give half of this to your brother? Why?" Yeah, he's like,
Yeah.
"Don't do that. You could just take this all yourself." And I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
no. And he's like, well, you're a really nice person. And I'm like, ah, it's just
It
what you're supposed
yeah.
to do. Yeah.
It's so strange because it's like you would think that, we're family, we're raised to love each other and all this stuff. And then like there are just certain situations where your family members are like your biggest ops. They're your enemies. Like you cannot trust them for anything. It's so strange to me.
So this family, they're very much in the spotlight for different reasons. So not
Hmm.
only do all of the horrible things that they do come out, just within this situation, um, but they're also like on the grand, like the grand stage of media,
Right.
which
You're
was
right.
also extremely interesting. And then you have this character of Naomi,
Hmm.
who the main character, now is it Xiomara?
Xiomara, yeah.
Xiomara, okay. Um, they were close when they were younger, and you know that she's an outsider and that her mother worked for the family
Mhm.
and that Naomi was the one really taking care of Papi Ramon until the end. And there's just this really weird, uncomfortable dynamic there as well.
Right.
And there's really like, you know, you have like the title, you should have been nicer to my mom. And like clearly there's many different layers to it. Um, which character really like did it begin? And also like the demon that they're supposed to be slaying or that Xiomara is supposed to be slaying. Did you always know who it was going to be when you started writing the story?
Oh, absolutely. I knew from the beginning who the demon was going to be. I knew how I was going to have it play out. And I mean, I knew that, to keep the tension like very high, obviously this has to kind of be like a very interesting boiling pot of like time and space, and because they're all just stuck in this house because now there's a storm coming around outside, and so now they're just staying in this home, and Naomi's there, and Naomi's just like, I'm just trying to get through like my last work day ever before I move on with my life completely. So I already knew like who the demon was going to be, how it was going to come out, because if anything, I know my family. And so I know, like, oh, if this happens, then like I know this person would say something, or that person would like, start to say something sideways to another character. And then like, oh, if they have like the mutual enemy on the other side of the family, then these two are going to forget about how they were just at each other's throat, and they're going to be talking smack about that third person. It's just I kind of like knew from the beginning, like, okay, here is exactly what's going to happen. Here is all the scandals from each family members. Here's the actual demon. Here's like, the actual innocent person. Here's the not so innocent person. Like it was something that I knew from the beginning. It was the hardest part about it was mostly like keeping sort of a red string board of like things that are going to lead into the next thing because this is a fairly sizable family. There's like 9 people, I think. And so I drew like the house layout and everything, and like hour by hour, I plotted where each character was going to go, where each character was going to be. There were a few times when I realized, oh wait, this character is not even supposed to be in this room here. Like I wrote them 2 paragraphs ago in this other room. Like let me, it's that was definitely the hardest part. It was just keeping track of all the characters because there's so many of them in such a small space, in such a small amount of time that I had to like really lock in.
I mean, you did a great job. And you also have just this fun running theme of these tapes that have just some clues in them and just other puzzles to put together. I mean, really, like this book has all of the things.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, I think the tapes came about because, I mean, like my grandparents still had tapes even in their later years. My grandmother passed just this past November, and I ended up inheriting her like old radio, and it has like a tape inside. So like I knew the tapes were like, okay, grandparents generally have that. The funny thing that I found out after having written this book, and I'm telling my mom about it and everything. She's just like, "Oh, you chose your grandfather's name." And I was like, "What?" It's like, "Yeah, that's your grandfather's name." I was like, I was not aware of that. Not aware that this was his name. Like, well, I already turned it in to my editor, so I guess we're keeping the name, but that was a very fun thing for me to realize later.
Um, wow, that is actually really fun.
I was just choosing like generic like Dominican names, and apparently my grandfather on my father's side is named Ramon, and I'm just like, "Oh, I didn't realize that. Like, because in my head, I only ever called him abuelo. Like that was just abuelo. So hearing later on, like, oh, that's his name. I was just like, that's his name was Ramon this whole time. Like, that's crazy.
So getting kind of into that a little bit, you do talk about the relationship between Dominican Republic and Haiti. And there's a lot of that in the undertones of this particular book. And I mean, I know a little bit, not as much. I've read Julia Alvarez's books
Yeah.
and but certainly not as much. And it was a really interesting way of infusing that that relationship into a book. Do you want to chat a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's so the relationship between Dominican Republic and Haiti is, in my opinion, best described as contentious, at no fault of Haiti, in my opinion. Dominicans have very strong, like medium to very strong levels of like anti-Haitianism, which is born out of like anti-blackness, and just like a whole host of other problems. Which is always has always been strange to me because so the main figure in Dominican history who is known for being extremely like anti-Haitian, on part of being anti-black was Trujillo, the dictator, Rafael Trujillo. Um, and the funny thing about him is his mother was a Haitian woman. So his mother's a Haitian woman, and he's a Dominican guy who's like, oh, now I'm in government, and I've decided I'm gonna, I have my own extremely bigoted, thoughts and ideas about like Haitian people, and here's how it's gonna like unfold throughout like all of history. And that idea, even if people aren't exactly like uh extreme in certain ways, like it still kind of comes through in the idea of like, oh well, I heard in Haiti they do this, so I heard that like Haitian people do. And it's just like you've never spoken to a Haitian person in your life. Like I know you're lying. And so it was something that I knew I wanted to portray, because it's a very honest depiction of like even though, these two groups of people literally live on the same island, like one is definitely like oppressing the other in some kind of way. Um, and I also, so the demon specifically, El Baka, uh has both has roots both in like Haitian culture and Dominican culture, and the way that they're used in both cultures are very different, which is something that I ended up learning like as I was like digging deep to the entire folklore behind it. So from like the Haitian side, there is it's strange. It's almost like the demon is almost a good thing. It almost doesn't really deserve to be called a demon, in that it is meant to be a protector of like your belongings. So you summon this spirit to just protect your things. And even after you die, whoever inherits that technically also inherits the demon as well. So like it's like this generational like demon that just like keeps going down the line until you decide I don't want it.
I mean,
Um,
yeah, if I could just kind of interject really quickly, the way that you're describing it, and when I'm thinking about it, like a lot of cultures have these household deities or
spirits and
household
yeah.
protectors, which, depend like eventually was translated to demon or some other
Yeah.
world, but what didn't start that way started, as you're saying, as something that belongs, in your house specifically to protect what's yours.
Yeah. So it starts like that's like part of, I'm not going to say this is like 100% the folklore, like grain of salt for me. But in the Dominican side, Dominicans are generally like very Catholic or generally just Christian. They're very Christian. There are some like brujeria, santerias like that do happen, but for the most part, very Christian like upbringing. Even my parents, because when I was asking my mom about like, hey, can you tell me more about El Vaca? And she would be like, I don't even know what that is. Like I was not raised with that. So on the Dominican side, it's more ascribed to like this is a demon. This is a demon that you should not make any deals with because it'll like leech your life from you. It'll do XYZ. And so there's like this double meaning of like, okay, this demon either does protect your things or it doesn't. And it's actually like, a trap for your soul. Um, and how that plays into the way that this family like views this demon because they know the name of it, and so they're just like, what is this? Like, we were only ever raised Christian. And so like, Yuritsa is like Googling like what it is, and they're like, oh, it's a Haitian demon. Ah, we have a Haitian in our midst. And it becomes like again another bigoted attack against Naomi, who's just like, I'm just trying to do my job. So it's very interesting how like we somewhat share like folklore, but the way that we deal with it is very, very different.
Honestly, the demon was the least horrible person in the book, or one of
100%.
one of them.
Like,
I mean, I was totally fine with the demon. Like in the end,
yeah, I was
I'm
like,
not.
you know
I don't
what?
want to
You're doing your
spoil
job.
anything, but like and it's not going to spoil anything at all because you do have to figure out who it is, and in the end, you don't really get what their deal is until the end,
Yeah.
really. So I could say that, and people could be like, "Oh, is it?" But they're horrible. But it doesn't matter once you get there, you'll be like, yeah,
Yeah.
no, totally
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But I do, and another thing I know I'd mentioned it a little bit earlier, touched upon it, is I really do love that you use the cult of social media to shine a light on the horribleness of some of
I mean, because
these
that's
people.
where that is, if this is like another thing that's like almost like a personal aside, or like I don't think this is like only a thing with my family. I think there are a lot of families like this, but like my family tends to think that as long as no one knows the horrible things you've done, then it's okay. Like there's no guilt attached to something if no one else can like ascribe a sin to you. It's just there's no guilt as long as nobody knows. So social media is like very powerful, not just in like, oh, you're canceled or whatever, but like people don't want anyone to know that you've done bad things. And especially for a Dominican family, like the worst thing in Dominican families is if you talk bad about someone, even if you are literally just saying fact by fact what they've done to you. Like oh yeah, my dad used to beat me, whenever I spilled milk or like something stupid. And your dad finds out, he's like, I can't believe you're talking bad about me. I was like, you did do this though. This isn't me talking bad about. It's very strange. You can just say the actual facts of your life and someone will be like, you're talking bad about me. It's just like there's the only way you can say that is if you acknowledge that what you did was in fact bad, but you're not doing that at all. So yeah, it's a whole can of worms.
Well, this conversation has been a delight, and this book is as well. And I really, really hope that listeners will pick it up and devour it because this is the second book that I've read by you, and I am hooked. So I can't wait till the next one comes
Yeah, thank
out.
you.
Thank you so much. Check it out. When does this come out officially?
March 10th.
So it should be on your list. And yeah, thanks, Vincent Tirado, for coming. This was Jessica with Syosset Libraries Turn the Page podcast, and we are going to close this chapter.
It's time to close this chapter of Turn the Page. Join us for the next episode.